accounted for. Before we move on to sunshining of legislation, all members of council received a letter dated January 7th, 2016 by the clerk called for a special meeting. Hearing no objections, the clerk will read the communication. Hearing none.
To all honorable members of council, pursuant to the authority of section 731.44 of the revised code of the state of Ohio and section 111.02 of the codified ordinances of the city of Steubenville 1957 as amended, you are hereby notified that a special meeting of city council will be held on Tuesday, January 12, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. in council chambers. This meeting is to be held for the purpose of ordinance number 2016-1 by the Public Utilities Committee, an ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements and directing the city manager to enter into a contract with the lowest, most qualified bidder for the State Route 7 and Logan Street emergency water line upgrade, city project number 2015-119, authorizing payment thereof and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 2016-2 by the Public Utilities Committee, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to make application for an emergency grant and loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission to be used towards funding the city of Steubenville State Route 7 and Logan Street emergency water line upgrades, city project number 2015-119, and execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 2016-3 by the Finance Committee, an ordinance authorizing and directing the acting city manager and finance director to pay Tim Boland a final severance pay in the amount of $33,091.15 and declaring an emergency. Sincerely, Frankie Anderson, Clerk of Council.
You heard the reading of the communication dated January 7, 2016 by the council clerk. Hearing no objections, it will be entered into the record. Hearing no objections, it is so ordered. Ordinance number 2016-1 by the Public Utility Committee, Mr. Fioretto, Mr. Dressel, Ms. Hall.
Ordinance number 2016-1, an ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements and directing the city manager to enter into a contract with the lowest, most qualified bidder for the State Route 7 and Logan Street emergency water line upgrade, city project number 2015-119, authorizing payment thereof and declaring an emergency.
You heard the reading of ordinance number 2016-1. Is there anyone wishing to speak on it? Please come forward, state their name and address. Not members council.
Roll call. Question.
Roll call.
Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
Ms. Hahn? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lois?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance number 2016-1 fully adopted. Ordinance number 2016-2 by the Public Utility Committee, Mr. Fioretto, Mr. Dressel, Mr. Law.
Ordinance number 2016-2, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to make application for an emergency grant and loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission to be used towards funding the city of Steubenville State Route 7 and Logan Street emergency water line upgrades, city project number 2015-119, and declaring an emergency.
You heard the reading of ordinance number 2016-2. Is there anyone wishing to speak on it? Please come forward, state their name and address. If not, members council.
Question.
Roll call.
Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
Ms. Hahn? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lois?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance number 2016-2 fully adopted. Ordinance number 2016-3 by the Finance Committee, Mr. Paul, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dressel.
Ordinance number 2016-3, an ordinance authorizing and directing the acting city manager and finance director to pay Tim Boland a final severance pay in the amount of $33,091.15 and declaring an emergency.
You heard the reading of ordinance number 2016-3. Is there anyone wishing to speak on it? Please come forward, state their name and address. If not, members council.
Question.
Roll call.
Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
Ms. Hahn? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lois?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance number 2016-3 duly adopted. That will conclude the ordinances and resolutions before City Council at the special meeting this evening. Before we move for adjournment, because we'll have public forum under the sunshine meeting, Mr. Dioretto asked to be recognized.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you very much. Two short statements. Once, I passed out the agenda for the hiring of the city manager, passed out to council and the press. I'm not going to read it to you. We're going to advertise for bids. We already have one bid, one applicant. They'll be finished on, I have to have one by February the 1st. If there's anyone here in council that doesn't agree with this or wants to make a change into it, let them be, speak up. Number two, we talked about the water department. I talked to my two committeemen, Scott and John over here. We're going to have a subcommittee meeting. We're going to have a subcommittee meeting before the new city manager gets on board. We're going to get on board. We're going to get all the information I can get, the three of us, on the liquids. We got $1 million left in the DMZ fund for the water department, so that goes. Is that right, Dave?
Got about $1 million.
Approximately. So that goes at the end of the program. Can't borrow or steal any more money. We're also going to address the federal lawsuit that's been harassing us since 1994. So that's going to be my agenda for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dioretto. Mr. Dioretto, if I can also have a copy of that press release, I have not received.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's have a motion for adjournment.
Not yet. On your letter, you say by February 1st you want to have a city manager in place.
Yes.
Pretty quick to me, that's 19 days. That's really quick. I know we got one resume here. I might just give it back. It sounds to me like we already got someone picked. That's what it sounds like to me. Last time, I know it took a long time to get the city manager we just parted ways with. It took 6 months, but we had a little snafu when he took another job, the first gentleman, and then we had to rebid and everything. I kind of feel we're really going about this really quick.
That's what I want to do. That's up to council as a whole.
I kind of think, I think you want transparency. I don't really think you're giving transparency. You're showing a lot of transparency here by hiring a guy February 1st. I'll go with that. Enough said.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Okay, John.
On that same note, the timeline is, in my opinion, out of line. It's too short. Number two, we're deviating from past practice by only publicizing in one journal, the Herald Star. And they go into the Weird Daily Times, and I believe they own the Wheeling paper. I think that search should be expanded. I believe in what you all have said in the past about hiring a person, local ties, or someone local that's going to spend time here in our fair city. Well, going back to what Councilman Paul said about transparency and the timeline, I don't think we're showing that. We're rushing something through where a majority of the council is new. And I think we ought to expand the timeline and the publications and make it a fair across the board for all. I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the council?
Can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Driscoll.
Can we go forward with getting resumes over the next 3 weeks and see who applies? And if we don't receive any that we think we can hire, at that point, can we lengthen the time of the search and the advertising criteria or not? If once we pass this,
City
we're
Council
stuck
has the
with it.
flexibility of structuring this whichever way they see fit to move forward. I will not disagree that the last search took a considerable amount of time.
Money.
In fact, almost 8.5 months.
Yeah, that's
and I was acting
we don't need to do
city
that.
manager. I understand City Council's thought process of moving forward with this as quickly as possible. But just looking at this press release, noting that the 27th is the deadline for applications at 4 p.m. And you would like to have somebody by the 1st in place, which is that Monday. That means you would have to conduct interviews on Thursday or Friday or over the weekend. Make those arrangements with the individuals come in, hold a vote, our city council. I think it's a very aggressive schedule, and I would, I'm not sitting that
Go ahead.
but I would encourage council to do it right. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I can tell you how we hire it where I work. We run an ad and we say we give preference to the first, anybody who applies in the first 2 weeks. But we don't put a deadline because you don't know what you're going to get. So the position stays open until we fill it. But we do say first 2 weeks. Now for running the ad only in the Herald Star, I believe that. I think we have local people here that are qualified. But if we don't, if we go through and we get local, and I believe people are going to also pick up on it that aren't local, but if we get nobody that doesn't qualify or can't get the majority of the votes, then obviously we would re-advertise and expand the scope. Just like on the last search, we re-advertised when the first guy turned us down. We did run an ad again. And everybody knows, even though we advertised in all the publications, we weren't beaten down with overwhelming candidates to become our city manager. And we did, the citizens did change the requirements for picking a city manager, which basically opened it up to a bigger pool of candidates. Because in the past, you could have somebody like the late Steve Jobs, president of Apple, the most successful company in our recent time, revolutionized the world. He could run Apple, he could not run the city of Steubenville under the old charter. So that's why I think it needed to be changed, and it was changed. And you still have to have CEO background. CEOs that run Fortune 500 companies clearly qualified to run the city of Steubenville, but they weren't under the previous rules.
Okay. However, noting that Wednesday, January 13th, which is tomorrow, the ad's already going to appear, so it's been submitted.
Yes.
Oh, with that deadline. So what you're saying is not, we're not now.
But in
There's a
actuality,
deadline out
if we
there.
don't have anybody, we can't. We got to keep looking. I mean, I don't agree with the deadline of February 1, but
Mr. Bill.
What Mike said, basically the same thing that I think it is. The last time I got to sit in, but I wasn't involved in the hiring process, but I did get to sit in, and it took an excessive amount of time. And we lost some guys, and we also had a couple guys that were really good that just were overpriced and we couldn't get. And the transparency part of it, I think that's why we all kicked around that we wanted to meet in executive session, maybe to discuss personnel, and we all kind of felt that wasn't the proper thing to do. Maybe it would be better off to let the people hear exactly what we are saying, which I think is good. But I agree 100% that we're moving forward quick. If we don't get candidates, then we can always go back and start all over again like we did before. But I don't want to start over 6 months from now doing the same, or 3 months from now doing the same thing. And again, with the local candidates, myself personally, we've got 10 city managers, am I correct? 9, 10, whatever it is. None of them have left here really with 100% happiness here. So I'd love to see somebody local. With that being said, I think we should stick with what Mr. Delaretto, the qualifications are in the charter, and also the timeline. And then if it doesn't pan out, then we start over from scratch. So I don't know if see what the consensus of council is.
The consensus of council is this, and we'll go by the majority council.
Well, the consensus of council, if an ad was already placed at the Herald Star and is going to appear in tomorrow's paper, obviously the deadline's going to be.
Well, we can cancel the next two advertisements. Comes in package, $675.
Oh, I mean, I see something for now. So, make sure I get. So we have an ad running that says that you have till the 27th to apply, right, for the first round, because this may not, you never know, we may not have whatever to do this. So we're not like bound by this decision to pick unless we find someone that we agree on is qualified, right?
Now, what's appearing in the paper? This?
No.
So it's an ad with qualifications
Same
and
as last
a
time.
deadline date,
Same
not
as
when
last
you
time.
want to.
No.
Here, if I may suggest then to city council, you have an ad that's going to appear in the Herald Star. If you want to expand that or not, that's fine. But the ad says that the deadline will be the 27th of January. That's fine. Now, you're hoping in a short period of time to fill that position. If it's February 1, it's February 1, fine. If it's February 8th, it's February 8th, that's fine. That doesn't appear in the ad, correct? So the ad that's going to appear on 3 occasions is fine. I would suggest to city council to hold some conversations and reflect on how soon you want to move to that process, because quite frankly, I don't think you want to circumvent the interview process of any of the interested candidates. You're going to want to hear what they say. You might have some thoughts of somebody in mind, and that's fine.
Mr. Republic just said to me, we can make it how we want to make it. So if somebody can't interview until February the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th or
As long as
whatever,
it doesn't appear in the ad.
they're not going to be excluded.
Right.
And
So the ad that's going to appear is going to be okay, but you're hoping, Mr. Giordano, to have somebody, but that's not
I don't
necessary.
want to go through what I went through last time, the last 2 times.
Trust me,
I think we should interview
Last
all
2 times.
qualified
Right.
candidates.
Everybody gets interviewed. Everybody gets interviewed. And everybody's gonna get their application as it comes in. The last time I got 35 applications at one time. I come next to my bed trying to read them all.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Who would be the person who does the actual vetting of the information that is given? In other words, who's doing background checks or whatever?
Well, first of all, any candidate has to sign a waiver allowing for background, criminal and financial background to be done. Once that waiver is signed, and the clerk, as she receives the resumes, can send out that request to see if they would sign it to speed up the process. The last request, if it's received on the 27th, should go out on the 28th. But the council clerk would be managing that. And again, no background checks, I'll make that clear, could be done unless they sign the waiver authorizing that to happen.
I mean, if John wants to look at them as they come in, then it's going to start tomorrow. Then maybe next Tuesday and the following Tuesday, we have executive session. We sit down, we review what we've got to date, and do like we did last time, whether we want to bring them in for an interview or not. And that's what we did last time, and we can do that as they come in. Now, the 27th is going to be after it's going to be hard to get your February 1st because the 27th is going to come in after the last council meeting in January. So when are we going to meet to even review those So
I think the citizens are hearing that you guys want, or the council would like to move as quickly as possible in filling this replacement, and that's a commitment I think you all want to make. However, you could shorten that, and being fair to everybody is the route we want to go. So I would suggest as the resumes are received, the council clerk notify them to sign the waiver for the background checks and the criminal checks simultaneously. The 27th is the cutoff date to receive them, at least for this first round, and hopefully every round. And we can move forward, but it probably won't be city manager on the 1st, sometime in February. Fair enough to summarize everything. Any other further discussion? Because we've got a sunshine review.
Thank you for your time.
Anything further on this particular subject now, council? Okay, if not, can I have a motion?
I will give that to you right now. I make a motion we conclude tonight's special meeting.
Second.
It's been really made in a second that the special meeting be adjourned. Roll call.
Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
Ms. Han? Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Levis?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. DeLoretto?
Aye.
So moved, special meeting adjourned. Let the record show that all members of council are here for the sunshining of legislation for January 12, 2016. The purpose of this meeting is to bring forth legislation that will be considered by city council at a future date. With that, we'll start off with Mr. Dressel.
No legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Dressel. Ms. Hahn?
No legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to sunshine a resolution honoring Shaq Cutaway for being named defensive MVP in the recently played Texas Bowl. He may not be here next week, so we may have to table it, but he is currently down in Florida training for the NFL draft, and but he should be back home in the next 2 weeks. And Raymond Stuckbach will coordinate when he's coming back, but he does plan to be here to accept it. We just don't know if it's next Tuesday. Probably not next Tuesday, but it could be the Tuesday after or the one after that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And the information for the resolution will be provided to our law director by Mr. Stuckbach. Thank you, Mr. Stuckbach. Thank you, Mr. Rapella. Okay, we'll continue on. Sunshine of legislation to Mr. Lawless.
No legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Lawless. Mr. Paul?
Yes, Your Honor, I have one, it's under finance, and it's an ordinance to approve and adopt current replacement pages to the codified ordinances. Big green book right there.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. We'll move on to Mr. Villamagna.
Nothing, Mayor, just a comment, if I could, about the department head. Chuck Murphy had an incident on Layla Court where a bad sheet of ice had formed down there at the bottom, causing quite a commotion. I got a hold of Mr. Baird, only because I figured it was the street crews were out. But at the time, they were home taking a little break from patrolling. So anyway, Mr. Baird went out very promptly, returned the phone calls. I got a hold of Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy was already in contact before I even contacted him with the property owner, and he resolved the situation out there within an hour of when it all took place. So, we hear negative things, and I want to be positive with Mr. Murphy and Mr. Baird. Both of them were very prompt and acted for the city quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villamagna. And Mr. Villamagna, you bring up a very good and interesting point. I was asked recently about assuming the acting city manager's job again, and I praised our department heads because I think we have a lot of professional and good people running our city, and you just reconfirmed that. So thank you, Mr. Villamagna. We'll move on to Mr. DiLoretto.
Yes, Your Honor. On service report, an ordinance authorizing the acting city manager to advertise for bids in accordance with the law with the acquisition of janitorial services for the city hall and to provide for a contract for the acquisition of said services for the year 2016 and beyond, authorizing the right to reject any and all bids, authorizing entering into contract and payment thereof. And Dom, I would also like to make a recommendation, this person that we hire have a CDL, so in case we need someone to shovel snow or cover or snow plows, we can pull him electrical.
Mr. DiLoretto, I believe this legislation is going to authorize for a janitorial service, not an individual to be hired by the city of Steubenville. there are several firms out there that would provide this service.
Make that hard to do, shovel snow too.
Well, I mean, they could on the sidewalks and all, but not the CDL license. Mr. Rapala. Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. That will conclude the sunshining of legislation. We will now move into public forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak to city council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address. If not, Mr. Paul.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. I make a motion, we conclude tonight's meeting. Second.
It's been ready to move to second that we adjourn. Roll call.
Mr. Gressel?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lellis?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Guys.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.